Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and welcome to Monday's edition of the Doctor Who Daily. Should Andy Garfield, the former Spider-Man by the way, and former Doctor Who guest star, be the next Doctor? Well, yesterday we were talking about Tom Ellis's qualities and why I think he would make a great Doctor, not just as the character, but commercially. And straight after I did the video, I was fucking about with some fan fiction, and I actually wrote this. Tom Ellis becomes the Doctor, looks in a mirror and says, "Bloody hell, I am Lucifer." You know, I just think that would be fun. But I think that would be taking it a stretch too far saying that. Although I was watching Russell T Davies' first Doctor Who episode, Rose, yesterday. I think I'm going to re-watch the entire revival run of Doctor Who now because I'm so hyped since I found out Russell is returning. And that moment when Mickey is swallowed by the bin and the bin burps, Russell maybe a step too far. Fucking hilarious though. But let's talk about Andy Garfield. Would he make a great Doctor? Absolutely yes. Look, I was talking when I was reacting on my reaction video to Russell returning that they are really going to give us a lot of treats now. They are not going to shave against the grain. They're going to shave with the grain. Because since Russell has gone, Doctor Who hasn't been as viable commercially as it was under Russell T Davies. Everything that happened during the Davies era was so marketable. Russell T Davies himself is marketable. Christopher Eccleston was marketable. David Tennant is probably the most marketable Doctor of all time. Now, I love Matt Smith as the Doctor, but he wasn't as marketable as David Tennant. The same as Peter Capaldi, and Jodie Whittaker should be one of the most marketable Doctors of all time. She's an attractive woman, she's a solid enough actor, she's young, you know, she's vibrant. So she should have been the Doctor of the young generation. She just wasn't executed properly in the writing. And whatever happened to Chris Chibnall's huge protestations about a writer's room? Was he the only one in the writer's room? Listen, as I say, I don't want to devalue anyone's love for the Chibnall and Jodie era. If you love that era, you love that era. And that's totally fine. You don't need my permission to love her, by the way, so I don't want to be an arsehole. All I can do is be constructive with my criticism. There's also things that I love, you know, about this era we've seen thus far. Not a lot, but I think the Rosa episode was groundbreaking and amazing, and also the one where Joe Martin was revealed as the Doctor was sensational. It's interesting, from that moment onwards they kind of went downhill fast, but that was a great episode, and he should have built on that. He should have literally had Joe Martin giving a little tease at the end of each episode to who she is, because she's pretty mystery box. I mean, I'm a fan of mystery box storytelling. I was a fan of who Clara could be and all of that, but not everyone likes mystery box storytelling. That's just my personal opinion. I think it's interesting. It gets the grey cells going. So I think it's brilliant. But what kind of qualities has Andrew Garfield got? Well, Andrew Garfield is a critically acclaimed actor. He's not just about him playing Peter Parker and Spider-Man. He's done a lot of good stuff. He was great in his episode of Doctor Who as well. If you remember him, what was it called? It was a Dalek two-parter in season 3, if I remember rightly. And Tom Ellis was in season 3 as well. I do believe they're going to go with a recognisable actor. I think someone that people really love. The other day I spoke about Tom Holland. Tom Holland would make a great young Doctor, and he's popular. They're going to do something along those lines. As I suggested, there's a lot of people with lots of inclusive takes on who should be the Doctor. There's one especially who's the woman's name escapes me. You may as well be, you're setting yourselves up for a fall. It's not going to happen. I'm not saying we may not get a black woman as a Doctor or something like that, But it's unlikely that they would want to cause more controversy. As I said yesterday, these things shouldn't be controversial, but unfortunately we live in a very bigoted world. And I'm sad about that, because my issues with Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor are nothing to do with her gender. There's something else that I've mentioned before. All the other actors playing the Doctor have, come across as intelligent and knowledgeable, and the Doctor pretty much knows a lot of stuff. Now, the Doctor should never have every answer and know everything, because then the Doctor isn't interesting anymore. But the Doctor is very intelligent, been around for thousands of years, and should know stuff. And Jodie Whittaker doesn't seem to have any answers apart from, pointing that sonic screwdriver. If I was the Doctor, the first thing I would do once I regenerated would be snap the Sonic in half and say, I don't need no wands, and then the episode would finish. It would be pretty awesome. Yeah, Andy Garfield would make a sensational Doctor. I really think that's one we can put on the list along with Tom Ellis. I think these people have got a chance of getting it. Now, I don't know what Andy Garfield's got planned, if he's returning as Spider-Man full-time for the Sony Spider-Man cinematic universe, as they're framing it now. I don't know, but he's got to be one. He's British, so he clicks those boxes. Again, they're not going to be controversial and pick an American actor as the Doctor or anything like that. I mean, they won't even give an American showrunner the time of day, let alone an American actor. Should an American actor play the Doctor? Well, listen, if you're saying a black person can play the Doctor, an Indian person, an Asian person, a female, or a transgender person play the Doctor, why can't an American play the Doctor? Can't they put on a British accent? I mean, should the Doctor always have a British accent? If the Doctor can regenerate into anyone or anything, then the accent isn't important. But this is the problem with iconic characters, iconic properties. People want certain things to stay the same, and that becomes problematic when you're a showrunner, because you do want to be experimental. But as I said yesterday, it is not the time to be experimental. But Andrew Garfield's qualities are immense, and he would be a great Doctor. Now, I don't think he'll get it, but who knows? I think Tom Ellis has probably got a bigger chance than Andrew Garfield, because I don't think Tom Ellis is signed up for anything at this moment in time. He's just finished Lucifer. Interesting that Lucifer finished with a sixth and final season. I was surprised about that. I thought it would go on for a bit longer. So maybe Tom has got something in the pipeline, and it could be Doctor Who, it could be James Bond, because I think he could do either well. Listen, as I say, Tom Ellis commercially would be as commercially viable as David Tennant. Everyone loves him. It would be perfect, as would Andrew Garfield. Now, beyond Andrew Garfield and trying to guess who will be the next Doctor, I think what is very interesting is the challenges ahead for Russell T Davies, because the challenges are immense. Because as soon as he goes to work, he's got to develop a 60th anniversary special. And that 60th anniversary special will be the next Doctor's first adventure. So this is huge. Now, I know a lot about Doctor Who, but I don't know this. Has there ever been a brand new Doctor regenerating and their first adventure being an anniversary special? I don't think so. It's also very interesting that Russell T Davies wanted nothing to do with the 50th anniversary. I've been told he backed off of it because he wanted to give Moffat every opportunity to convince Christopher Eccleston to join. And even without RTD there, Chris wouldn't join. But what I would say is this: how can you have a 60th? Because I think a 60th anniversary is much more important and elite than the 50th. And I think, how can you have an anniversary special without Christopher Eccleston? Now, when we were building up to the 50th anniversary, it was very troubling that we weren't hearing what they were up to. They didn't seem to have any plans. Ultimately, they kept their plans under wrap, or did they even, most of their plans maybe just, they come up with them quickly. I don't know. And Adventure in Space and Time was kind of a biopic, was brilliantly run by, what's his name? I forgot his name. It's the bloke who blocked me on Twitter ages ago. But Mark Gatiss, love Mark Gatiss, but he got fed up of me sending him videos of Doctor Who auditions, so he blocked me. Come on, Mark, you don't have to block me forever. I'm nice, I won't send you any auditions. I think I'm the perfect Doctor. But if you don't agree, I won't bother you any longer. So yeah, Mark Gatiss wrote a great biopic, which was part of the 50th anniversary special. But the big thing, of course, was the Day of the Doctor. And they brought back David Tennant, which was huge, because as I say, probably the most popular Doctor of all time at this point. So this is what Russell T Davies has got in front of him, and it's a huge challenge. And you know, because the 60th anniversary, because we're talking about a celebration, controversy has got to be the last thing on their minds. And this is why I think we're going to get a traditional casting for the Doctor. And I think someone like Tom Ellis, Andy Garfield, Tom Holland, people like that, Jude Law would make a great Doctor, would make a very interesting Doctor as well. But they've got to be able to commit at least 3 years to this. And as we've seen, 3 seasons of Chibnall's Doctor Who has taken, what, 5 years or something like that? But also, Chibnall has a very restrictive way of working. And I think this is something the BBC didn't like. People complain about the marketing for Doctor Who under Chibnall. Well, the problem is Chibnall doesn't like big expansive trailers. RTD did. RTD understands that the marketing is so important. Marketing Doctor Who is like marketing the MCU or the DCEU. It was that blockbuster under RTD. And Chris Chibnall doesn't like people to see a lot of what they're going to see. He doesn't like too many spoilers. Now, you don't have to spoil things by, you know, marketing, having huge marketing. But so hopefully we get the whole, you know, next time sequences as well at the end of each episode. Did we still get that with Chibnall's era? I don't know. What you're going to see, a lot of people believe that Russell T Davies is not going to do everything the same as he did before, and I don't think you should expect him to do everything the same. But listen, Russell T Davies can only be Russell T Davies. And I would say this again, talking about shaving against the grain, I think Stephen Moffat shaved against the grain as Doctor Who showrunner, big time. And Chris Chibnall has definitely shaved against the grain in Doctor Who. And I think that Russell T Davies and Bad Wolf Productions, Julie Gardner and Jane Tranter, understand that we are in a very desperate environment for Doctor Who, and it needs a balance, it needs to be set back on course. And you know, you don't make stupid controversial decisions when you're in trouble. You know, just because Russell T Davies is back and we love him, if he does stuff we don't like, we're not just going to accept it. Now, I'm not saying a diversity hire is wrong and he shouldn't do it, but at the end of the day, you want to bring people back. What they thought with the Chibnall era is they could drive the original fans away and it wouldn't matter, and new fans would come in and embrace Jodie's Doctor. And I think if Jodie's Doctor had the personality and character development that she should have had, then maybe that could have happened. But it didn't, because they were lazy. Simple as that. Jodie Whittaker's Doctor is a lazy Doctor. The extent of her character development is liking custard creams. That is just lazy. You don't get more lazy than that. Again, I don't want to devalue her or Chibnall's era to people who love it. I'm just giving some constructive criticism. And I don't think Jodie Whittaker Jodie Whittaker's Doctor liking custard creams is really enough of character development. And so, you know, Russell has got a big job in front of him. And I mean, it's interesting to me because the issues with Christopher Eccleston are with Russell T Davies, are with Julie Gardner, are with that team. And so the only person who can change that is Russell T Davies. Now, they haven't spoken to each other for a long time. When Eccleston, after being blacklisted by the BBC, came out and pretty much said that he had issues with the producers of the show, and Russell said, I don't want to do a he said, she said situation. Chris has got every right to have his word. He's a great actor. He was a great Doctor. So RTD, rightly I think, probably doesn't want to create a war of words. But it seems to me that Eccleston is quite stubborn about this. Now, I've explained it on this channel before what happened. What happened was, and I think I even explained it the other day, but we'll quickly go through it again. What happened was, when they did the first season of Doctor Who, Russell T Davies had never show-run an expansive show of 13 episodes with a big budget, huge VFX, and the pressure got too much. And what happened was the cast and crew had a very tight schedule. They weren't getting the breaks, and Eccleston, as a socialist, didn't like that, and he started, you know, falling out with the production team over it. He was sticking up for his cast and crew members, and ultimately that's why he left. I think we were all surprised. I was less surprised because Eccleston really hasn't stayed long with anything. He does limited series, he does films, so he'd never stayed longevity anywhere, and now we know why. I don't think he's a diva, but I think he's a socialist, and I think that he has, he has these moral views, and I think that's what got him into trouble with the production team of Doctor Who. I don't think there's a right or a wrong person here. I understand, I respect and admire Chris even more for fighting for his cast and crew members. It's no accident that Billie Piper left as soon as her contract was up at the end of season 2, so I think even she didn't like what happened to Christopher Eccleston, although she did come back as a guest star, didn't she, at the end of season 4 and then at the beginning of season 4. So obviously not too many issues with Russell T Davies, but it was very interesting how Billie left so quickly after 2 seasons. Very interesting, because she was very popular. Her and David Tennant had great chemistry. I personally prefer the chemistry between Billie and Chris Eccleston. That's just my personal opinion, and I think Billie Piper leaving freed Russell up, freed David Tennant up to make his Doctor his very own, getting away from that contrived love story, which I wasn't a big fan of myself. And if you are, that's totally valid and totally fine. It's just my opinion after all. And so what's interesting to me is, what kind of anniversary special will this be? This can't really be an anniversary just celebrating the revival. It has to celebrate the classic era as well. Obviously, a lot of people, let's just say, are no longer in the land of the living who were involved with the classic era. I want to see Fraser Hines. He's agile. We haven't seen him yet in the revival. We haven't seen Carol Ann Ford as Susan. Bring her back. Have her regenerate as a new version of Susan, so we can use that character maybe in a spin-off. Now, Russell created the Doctor Who extended television universe with Torchwood and the Sarah Jane Adventures. Could Susan, the Doctor's granddaughter, be involved with a similar spin-off? Regrettably, we don't have Sarah Jane anymore, so, you know, not Carol Ann Ford, or maybe she could. We'd have to wait and see. She's quite old now, so I'm not quite sure if she could do her own show. But what you could do in an anniversary special is have her regenerate into a younger person. So I'd love to see Carol Ann Ford one last time, and a Susan spin-off would be amazing. You know, so people like that. Is Ian Chesterton still alive? I'm not sure. Is Ian Chesterton his character, not the actor? Not sure, I'm confused. As I said, I don't know every single detail of Doctor Who history, so you're going to have to forgive me about that. So that's the kind of celebration, because, you know, it's interesting what people are saying about Russell T Davies returning, that it's just a fanfare of the past, and it's, you know, it's just going to be the greatest hits. I don't expect that, but do expect them to do things to people please, because when you get yourself in trouble, and it's not Russell's fault, in a way, Russell himself should have realised once he stepped down as showrunner, he needed to still mould the clay and have a godfather role, which would have also given him time to do his other projects. As I said yesterday, him just leaving and cutting the cord created a huge mess. Because what happened with Stephen Moffat is, he's a great writer, great imagination, but he became too arrogant. And he was on Twitter, and things got a bit nasty in the end. You know, he was getting death threats and things like it. It became horrible. And I think that Russell T Davies just knows how to deal with public criticism. Obviously, anyone can deal with public adulation and love, but it's when people don't like something you've done. And I think Russell's very good at it. He talks about it and then he moves on quickly and it's over, because he commands that respect from the audience. I don't think Stephen Moffat commanded that respect. As much as I love the guy, and as funny as I think he is, and interesting and unique and talented, it became an us against them. And it's like Chibnall, it's become an us against them. That's a situation you can't reflect to your consumer and your customers and your fandom. It's not the way it works. In retail, no matter how much you hate your customers, you can't tell them to fuck off. And we've been getting, you know, as part of the Doctor Who fan base, we have been getting a lot of fuck offs from people recently. And you simply can't do that. So there's a huge 60th anniversary special where we're going to meet the next Doctor, and where, as I say, it's got to be really celebratory. And I've mentioned some of the things I'd like to see. So I think, talking about Andrew Garfield as the Doctor, you can tell that I believe we're going to get a kind of A-list piece of casting. So I think that's interesting, because, as I said yesterday, nobody really likes the new Doctor when they're first announced. I think very rarely. Obviously, the classic days, there was less expectation, because let's be clear about Doctor Who. When it first launched with William Hartnell, it was as popular commercially as it was under RTD, but that fizzled out very quickly and it became a cult show. And that cult fandom kept it going to what, 1989? Unfortunately, the Sylvester McCoy era fizzled out. Not a big fan of that era, but I am a fan of Ace. Ace really kept that show going. Ace really was a modern day Russell T Davies companion, and they even gave her own arc. She was very interesting, and the actress was fantastic as well. She was, you know, she was vibrant, she was attractive. You know, I had a crush on Ace, and I think most of us had a crush on Ace, and her and Sylvester McCoy were actually really, really good together. You see, the thing is, for me, and I've discussed this a lot, because I do interact with classic Who fans as well as the fans of the revival, which is important as a Doctor Who fan and someone who talks about Doctor Who online. And we've had heated discussions about this. You will never have a modern day Doctor Who show that totally embraces the classic era, because, to be blatantly honest with you, there's no money in it. But what Russell T Davies at least attempted to do is embrace the classic era in terms of the monsters of Who, in terms of people who used to be on the show, bringing them back. The director Graham Harper, who directed many new Who episodes, and I think even directed some classic Who, if I'm right. I think I'm right. Again, I don't know everything. So he tried his best, but Russell T Davies brought the show into the 21st century, and that attracted a younger, vibrant, broader audience. So what he got, he had the classic fans and the broader audience. This is why it was reaching kind of audiences of over 10 million. Now, in this day and age with Netflix and streaming, can the BBC have Doctor Who be so popular? Yes. Russell T Davies can do it. Russell T Davies isn't just doing this for an easy job. He will take this seriously. He will sit down and think about everything creatively that he does. As I say, he can only be Russell T Davies, but he's a genius. Everything he does, he wins multiple awards for. You know, A Very Peculiar English Scandal, Years and Years, you know, all the stuff that he's done. Going back to Queer as Folk, if anyone else did Queer as Folk, it simply just would have been this lecture. But Queer as Folk is very, very entertaining as well. And so that's what he's good at. He's good at representation and inclusion, but he's good at trying to educate people rather than talk down to them. The moment when Captain Jack kisses the Ninth Doctor on the lips, that could have been very problematic. When I saw that, I felt some emotion. I thought it was great because we loved Captain Jack and it worked. And I think it would have made a lot of bigoted people, when they saw that, think again about their views on homosexuality, for example. So Captain Jack was very important. I always think that Captain Jack is Russell T Davies in the Doctor Who universe, and I think that's great. Another thing I love about Russell T Davies, he writes with his heart, and I don't mean he sticks a pen in his heart and goes like that. Everything he does is, he writes everything so romantically, and I don't mean that in romance as love affairs, but everything's so romantic. His doctors, both his doctors, were romantic doctors, romantic adventurers. And that's what appealed to the audience as well. And that's what I really liked about Russell T Davies. So, look, he had to come back, even just for the anniversary, because everyone knows, the BBC know, everyone knows how huge this must be. It would have been disastrous for Chris Chibnall to be in charge of the 60th anniversary special. Chris Chibnall is very, very Rian Johnson, where they want to burn the past behind, let it die, as they say in The Last Jedi. Really, the Chris Chibnall, basically the Timeless Children, is The Last Jedi. You see, the thing is, it's all well and good trying to create a new future for iconic, legendary properties, which you should do, introduce new, vibrant, younger characters and all of that. But what you must never do is take the tablecloth and pull it all away straight away. People notice it, it pisses people off, and you should never do what he did with the Timeless Children. Now, as I say, I don't mind the concept. The concept's very interesting, but burning down what the Doctor's always meant and his history is very, very difficult. Now, I'm not as triggered about that as most people, but people love long-running iconic properties for a reason, because they have a sense of identity. You know how they work, you know the history. Now you can change, you can do things within the future of the show, about the future of the show, and that's great. But once you start saying that William Hartnell is no longer the first Doctor, something I can personally live with, because William Hartnell wasn't deleted, but I genuinely understand people's frustrations, and I think it's a little bit cruel, and I think it's a little bit toxic, and there's no need for it. Now, Russell T Davies said himself, he thinks it's all right to break canon. I think it's okay to break canon with little things. And I think when you do things like that, people get very, very upset. Because obviously these older fans weren't happy about a female Doctor, then you do that. As I say, I never had an issue with having a female Doctor. The character can regenerate into anything or anyone, right? And, you know, even though there'd never been a female Doctor before, even like in the 80s, they were considering a female Doctor. So think about that, and they were too scared. Russell T Davies said he was too scared to cast a female Doctor. And when he saw the reaction to Jodie, he said, oh, that's not too bad. Maybe I should have done it. But Russell knows it was controversial. And Russell knows he wouldn't be back if everything in the garden was rosy. And so we're going to get a new Doctor, we're going to get an anniversary special. So this is such an exciting time now to be a Doctor Who fan, because as I just said, Chris Chibnall couldn't be running this. The problem with Chris Chibnall, he doesn't, I don't know how to put it. Russell T Davies exceeds exuberance. He's so enthusiastic. That's one of the things I always loved watching him on Doctor Who Confidential. That's the first time I'd ever heard of him or saw him speak. And the enthusiasm he has for this universe and this character is so infectious. And I think beyond his talent as a creative, he's also an infectious person. And he made Doctor Who infectious with, you know, with bags and bags of his enthusiasm. And that's what I love about Russell T Davies. But he's not just a great writer. Everything you saw in his era was because of him. Doctor Who Confidential was because of him. Murray Gold, having this great John Williams orchestral kind of music, was because of him. Russell got it. He modernised the show without killing the core values that the show always had. But I think that Russell T Davies and Moffat, to a lesser extent, wanted to kill it. They wanted, as I say, to shave against the grain. And with iconic, legendary properties, you can't do that. You know, look how badly the BBC have lost, how far Doctor Who has fallen. I think casting Jodie could have worked if they did it a different way. As I said yesterday, her opening statement about telling us not to be afraid of her and that she's a feminist really wasn't the best two things to say when you know people are not going to be happy with your casting. So what you've got to do is ingratiate yourself to people. You shouldn't have to, but this is the kind of environment we find ourselves in. So you talk about the Doctor, your excitement about moulding, an original new version of this iconic character. But she never seemed interested in the character. I've never seen Doctor Who before. I didn't go back and watch it. And for me, these are things you really shouldn't admit doing, because people value you loving the property you're working on. You don't actually have to like Doctor Who, But in the marketing and the discussions, you need to look like you're here because you love the fucking show, even if you don't. And this was the difference with, you know, the Russell T Davies era, especially with David Tennant, who is genuinely a huge Doctor Who fan, and he can give you any fact. He can give you more facts about Doctor Who, you know, in this universe than I can. And that's what made David Tennant so great. Not only was he a great, marketable, young, vibrant, virile, attractive Doctor who could bloody well act his way out of a paper bag. He was amazing, right? He had everything. People knew he was a Doctor Who fan, so he had the character's best interests at heart, as does Russell T Davies, Jane Tranter and Julie Gardner. We are in great hands. This is not going backwards, everyone. This is what we needed. It's a great time to be a fan. I can't wait to see what happens and who they cast and what the plans are for the 60th. And we will be here together discussing it and analysing it every step of the way. I'm Mick, your host with the most. You have been watching the Doctor Who Daily. Remember, I'll be back every day with an edition of the Doctor Who Daily here on Movies TV Mad. Like, share, subscribe. Please come back for more because you won't regret it. After all, I'm just a Doctor Who fan like you lot. So I will see you again for even more Doctor Who Daily. Until then, goodbye.